starting in just 1 minute. Just FYI, we had about 3,500 registrations in total for this webinar, and I think there's about 100 plus people on the line so far. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started while we're waiting on O'Neill. Reminder that he's actually in Central Time in the US, and so it's about 6 a.m. for him. We weren't fair when we were setting the time for this webinar. So once he joins us, we'll do his introduction and get rolling. But again, welcome to all our extremely esteemed panelists on the line with us now. I'll be doing introductions in just a moment, but thank you ladies for joining us today, taking time out of your extremely busy calendars to join us and share your insights. It looks like we have O'Neill on the line as well. Hi O'Neill, give us a wave.
Morning, how you doing? Good to see you, Ola.
Good to see you, good to see you. I was just telling everyone how early it is for you over there and how we're quite unfair in scheduling but thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and jump to introductions. Again, we have just an hour on this webinar. We want to make very good use of our time. So I'll go ahead and start with O'Neill first. O'Neill is the Senior Human Capital Consultant at Deloitte Consulting. He's based in Chicago. His previous role was a senior consultant with business transformation enablement at Deloitte. He's worked at BTS, Chicago as a senior consultant for 6 years before joining Deloitte. And then I will move to a quick story about Deloitte, about O'Neill. Interesting to say that when I was pursuing my MBA and looking for post-MBA career opportunities, I used to bug O'Neill so much because he worked out at Deloitte and they were recruiting at my school at the time. So I would send, constant emails and phone calls, borderline harassment, trying to secure a position at Deloitte. So it's a pleasure to have you here after all that time. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. And now we're moving on to Mayokun Aduwo. Mayokun is joining us from IBM. She's the HR leader for Northeast and West Africa. She started her professional career at EcoBank, working in operations, and then she later joined KPMG as a management consultant, working on various strategy and human resource engagements. So Mayokun, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for your time. And then I'll be moving on to Hilda. Hilda is, thank you, Mayokun. Hilda is the CEO of Jobberman, and she has almost a decade worth of experience in consulting and human capital development. She's currently the CEO, as I said, which is Nigeria's biggest job platform with over 2 million job seekers and 60,000 employer partners. She was previously an engagement manager at McKinsey & Co. And she has worked as transfer pricing expert at KPMG and East Africa. So it just shows you the caliber of our panelists and their wealth of experience, ranging from different industries and always seeking out opportunities in human capital, that are all passion driven. Thank you so much, Hilda, for joining us, and thank you for your partnership with Jobberman on this front.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Hilda. And I'll be moving on to Timmy Daly. Timmy is an adept HR leader with nearly 2 decades of experience locally and internationally. She's currently the CHRO of Sterling Bank, which is an extremely special partner for us at Nexford. Timmy is a seasoned professional with an exceptional reputation in strategic leadership, people management, business acumen, amongst others. As a CHRO at Sterling Bank, she's responsible for building a competent, dynamic, and agile workforce to meet the rapid, of course, changing demands in today's workplace. Thank you so much for joining us, Timmy.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. And next, I have Sheyi. Sheyi, tri-sector development consultant with huge Roads experience and youth and entrepreneurship development. She's currently sitting at the helm of employability, excuse me, at the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund (LSETF), where the implementation of a $4 million Lagos State Employment support project in partnership with UNDP, the United Nations Development Fund, is under direct review of hers. She also oversees the $10 million employability program of the LSETF in partnership with USADF. That's the United States Africa Development Fund. So thank you so much for joining us today, Sheyi. We look forward to hearing some of your insights.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
All right, thank you all. And so just a message to our audience, there's really about 300 audience members on the line. And I know we'll be getting loads of questions as we go through the questions and the presentation. If you have questions, please use the Q&A box. There's a Q&A with a chat icon that you should be able to see. So if you have questions during any of the speaker presentations, please type them in that box. We also have dedicated time after some of our panel sessions to take Q&A as well. So please use that. And if you have any general comments, of course, you have the chat box to use as well. So we've done introductions. Again, we have O'Neill Pert, Mayokun Ado, we have Hilda Praga, we have Oluwaseyi Ladejobi, and we have Temi Dali joining us. And I'm your host, Olamide Majekodimi, and the country manager for Nexford University. Okay, so this is our agenda for today. We'll be discussing 4 key one, employability, especially during this difficult time in the world. We'll be talking about career management, how to make sure that you're able to reach and achieve the goals that you're looking for in your career. Skillful job search as well, how to make sure that your profile and you're using adequate resources that you have available to you to make the best use of your time as you're looking for a job, and also future-proofing your career skills. What does the future of work look like, and how can we make sure that we have a seat at that table and our careers are sacrosanct? So jumping into the first discussion on employability, I will be just asking questions directly to some of our panelists. And our first question actually goes to O'Neill. Your organization has a global view. Working at Deloitte, based on your research, can you tell us about some hard and soft skills that are globally in demand?
Yeah, thanks, Ola. I think when considering the hard and soft skills that are currently in demand, there's kind of two buckets. The first bucket would be the technical skills, right? Those hard skills, as you call them. And I think the first that come to mind for me are data-centric skills, whether that's working with data visualization, whether it's working with statistics. As you look at our world today and all of the software applications, all of the software platforms that we log into and we store data, companies are willing to pay a premium for the people that can come in and help them to tell a story with all of that data that they've been collecting over time, because ultimately, it's a lot of information, and there's a huge opportunity for some of these companies to drive value, whether it's selling information, whether it's utilizing information to adapt and change their strategy. But I think that for someone who can come in, with even relatively low experience, just having a degree in data science really sets you up nicely in today's world. Another one that comes to mind is around coding and software development. I think that's a bit more mainstream now, but still in high demand given all of the development work that's going on in the various tech hubs around the world. And I see that I was not doing a workforce planning engagement for the IT function of an American retailer, but it was actually surprising to me to see how challenging it was for them to fill roles that did Java development, understood how to work in R, Python. I think that with that scarcity, ultimately what we told them is that you may not be able to hire those people. You're going to have to be creative with how you fill those roles, whether that be leveraging the gig economy and bringing folks in part-time for project-based work as opposed to looking to capture talent like that. So I think those are the two: data, coding, software development, that come to mind from a hard skills standpoint. From a soft skill standpoint, there are three things that jump to mind for me. Number one, communication skills. So when you think about having a conversation with someone and them being able to deliver a point clearly, cleanly, succinctly, I think that's something that's never going to go away. I also think that people that show the ability to network and build relationships, because we increasingly work in matrixed organizations where, we have to work with someone who may not report to us, may not be on our team. And so for folks that are able to build and maintain relationships across functional lines, it's critical in today's organizational setup. And then thirdly, it just goes back to kind of being a go-getter, right? Being proactive instead of reactive. I think increasingly organizations are looking for people who are self-starters, who have that entrepreneurial mindset, whether they're working for a small or a large company. I think that those three are the things that come to mind there. So hard skills, I think data, coding, and software. Soft skills, think communication, building relationships, and being proactive.
Thank you so much, O'Neill, and thanks for summarizing those takeaways, all extremely rich. Of course, we have to embrace technology. It's absolutely the future, and then all across industries and job roles, and also networking and such, and meeting people and building relationships. So my next question goes to Mayakon. Mayakon, IBM has a global view. You hire about 350,000 people as of 2019 globally. What skills would you say are most valuable in graduate hires, especially for African talent?
Okay, thank you. There's something we say that skills is a new currency, and this is what we kind of overstated in IBM, even for current workforce. And what the world has changed, technological advances. So what this means is that even the workforce and the skills required has changed. So what we in IBM, we kind of categorize it into the technical skills. We call it hot skills. The technical skills, the industry skills, and the more soft skills. So technical skills, artificial intelligence and cognitive, blockchain, analytics, quantum computing, cloud, and security. I know it's all tech, right? Tech company, and that's what the world has moved to. So for graduates now, new graduates of computer science, computer technology, or engineering, people that are looking to do core technical skills, you have to at least have this, one of this, or two of this, or three of this. The more the better. You may have core focus and kind of have a understanding of it, right? Another thing again is from an industry perspective, when we look at Africa as a continent, then most of our business is in the financial services here, financial services industry, we're education, consumer products, telecoms industry. And this, I'm just picking the part that will be relevant for Africa. If we're talking about worldwide now, we're talking about aerospace and all, but we're not really advanced in that part in Africa as a whole. Then the soft skills, this we can't overemphasize on. One, adaptability and flexibility. This working from home thing and all that, everybody had to, we just had to go business as usual. And people had to ask me, people were calling me and saying, oh, what are you doing everything when you started in March? And I said, no, I'm working. It's business as usual. The only thing that's changed is the room I'm in, so to speak, or I'm not in the office, I'm at home now. Business acumen, no matter what role you're doing, you should at least understand the business and what the business is about. Basic financial documents, so that's very important. Creative thinking and innovation, we cannot overemphasize that in IBM. You know, there's one of our values, we say we treasure wild ducks. So this, you have to be creative. It's something that is really treasured. So for new grads, think about how you can be creative, how to get the creative juices flowing. Critical thinking, very important. How do you connect the dots? You know, most of the time our education is in silos. Oh, I'm an economics person, I'm this person, oh, I did mechanical engineering. How do you connect these dots? How can you apply engineering into this? How can you apply economics into, you know, thinking about connecting. So critical thinking, in-depth thinking, very important. Then something very important as a global organization is cultural intelligence. O'Neill spoke about matrix organization, and IBM is highly matrix. So you're working with people in the country and you have people you're working with around the world. And you have to be sensitive to culture, to accents, you know, to way of life, to even emotional, that segue into emotional intelligence. You know, there's some things that you can't, you know, I'm a Nigerian, born and bred. Patience is not particularly my virtue, I'm working on it. So if I have to tell you, or maybe you mess up and I see a document that, oh my goodness, how did this document go out? I'm calling the person and I say, hey, you know what? You need to take that thing and take it down now. You know, and later we can talk about it, but I want the action now. It doesn't work in some other parts of the world, you know. I did that for some of my direct reports in Kenya, and one of the feedback I got, you know, when I was doing my, hey, so how have I been as a manager was, Maya, I know it could be a bit harsh and brash. I'm like, oh, okay. Like I said, okay, give me an example. And she gave me the example of that. I was like, really? Like I would do it to a regular Nigerian and it had to be done. But that cultural intelligence and understanding and, you know, changing your ways and just kind of compromising, saying, hey, I'm Nigerian, I'm quite direct, I'm probably confrontational. I know you probably may not be too confrontational, but you know, let's try and find a middle way. So that cultural intelligence is very important. Decision making, you know, you have to be quite decisive. There are situations whereby you can't reach your boss, you can't reach anybody, and you have to make a decision at that moment. What decision are you making, and is it some of the right decision? And of course, there's room for error if the intent of the decision made sense. A growth mindset, I will end now. A growth mindset. Yes, you could be a superstar. We could get you in, oh, come in, everything like that. What happens after that? What happens 5 years, 6 years, 7 years down the line? What you see is that you can't, if you don't have a growth mindset, that continuous learning. You know, I think it's called Kaizen, I think in Japanese. And forgive me if it's not. So that continuous learning, do you have it? It's very, very important for us. We don't only bring, oh, this person has done groundbreaking work, person's stellar, first class, magna cum laude. Does that person have a growth mindset? There are ways we test it and see how willing are you to grow, to expand, to learn, to relearn. I will just end with this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes about the 24th century. It's by Alvin Toffler. It says, the literates of the 24th century will not be those who cannot read or write, but rather those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Thank you.
I think that quote took me out. It really summarized so much of what you said. Extremely, extremely key points that all resonated, and I'm sure it does with our audience as well. Thank you so much, Mayakum. So we're moving to Hilda. Hilda, your question that I have for you is, from your perspective at Jobberman, how are employers shifting their requirements and skills that they value the most, especially during this period?
Yeah, so I'd say, you know, it's kind of counterintuitive, but from an employer perspective, they've always wanted just one thing, right? Which is somebody who can get the job done, with the least amount of stress possible. This means employers are either looking for experience, somebody who has done the job before, or they're looking for somebody teachable, somebody who can learn to do the job. If you look especially at most graduate recruitment programs, even in Nigeria, and look, using my clients as a base, nobody really cares what degree you studied undergrad, right? You need to be teachable. That's the most important thing. You go into a bank and there's people who studied surveyors, HR, whatever, all learning the same thing because that quality has been tested and they know it's there. So that's super important for employers. But what does this mean for you as a job seeker? It means, especially if you're just starting out in in your career, the soft skills that many people have covered already end up being more important than the technical skills, which you can learn on the job, right? I know that lots of the panelists have touched on most of them. The one thing I'd want to add, I guess, is something around self-awareness and self-management, just learning your strengths and your weaknesses, the way you work best, figuring out what it takes for you to get to work and to be diligent. Diligence is probably the one thing that as a young graduate especially will take you from the very beginning to a mid-level role. Being reliable, an employer knowing that if I give my work to Hilda, I'm going to get it back on time. Those are the things that get you promoted, that get you visibility, and that get you forward in life, right? The technical skills are important, but increasingly, as far as especially larger companies are investing in training, they don't care what your technical background is, they will teach you. But the one thing I'd want to add, which I actually kind of have a conversation around employers and their requirements, that addressing the fact that if you're a Nigerian young person especially, you need to have a conversation around yourself beyond how do I become employable to how do I become self-sustaining. The unemployment rate right now is 23%. I think they said thanks to the COVID-19 lockdown, it's going to grow to 33.5%. That means that you need to think about the skills that you can learn that ensure that you're self-sustaining even while you wait for a job, or maybe you never need to get into employment. And these are the creative skills. I know a lot of them are around the digital sector, as has already been mentioned, but even things like tailoring, like plumbing, like the kind of stuff that if you can link into the right ecosystem, you can actually sustain yourself while you wait for the long-term job. That's something very important you have to think about. As opposed to sitting home and waiting to do interviews every single day, upskill yourself and put yourself to good use. You never know what you'll be able to get, what kind of opportunity you'll be able to get using these skills that typically are underlooked in the creative sector that sustains you while you wait for employment.
Extremely, extremely well said, Hilda. Thank you so much. And your takeaway there is get the job done when you're in the position, and make sure that you're either experienced or in the eyes of the employer. So I'll be moving forward to Shay. Shay, can you answer this question for us, please? Employability is at the core of what you do. What impact has the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund had on improving employability in Lagos State? And if you can even touch on some of the trickle-down economics of the work that you're doing and how you're seeing impacting lives of Nigerians.
Okay, thank you so much for that question, Olamide. Okay, so LSCTF, like, we were set up in 2016. It's an agency of the government, and we were tasked with a sole mandate to provide job and role creation opportunities for Lagos State residents. Right, LSCTF as an entity on its own since inception has contributed to 100,000 jobs, especially in context of the labor market. And how have we been able to achieve this, right? I'll touch on the programs with the core mandate of job creation, right? So we have a program called the Access to Finance, which is access to loans for micro, small, medium enterprises. We recognize that when you support an SME, when they get to expand, they're able to create jobs for the youth, especially within the SME context. We recognize that in Nigeria, 84% of the jobs that are created are done by the SMEs. So SME, supporting the SME is one way that we recognize that you have to create jobs. Then if I have to touch on the core employability program intervention of the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, it was birthed as a result of addressing the unemployment issue. So when you look at what is making the youth unemployed, right? One, there's a skills mismatch that we all recognize. We all say the education did not prepare you for the world of work. It's all right. What can we do about it, right? That's where the intervention comes in. So what we try to do is try to address this mismatch. And how do we do that? We have a first process, which is the industry engagement. When we engage the industry, we're able to identify the relevant skill gap that exists within the industry. So once we do that first step, the second step that we take then is to inform the curriculum that will be developed to train the youth, right? We offer short skills development courses. We're sector agnostic, and so designing the content to train the youth is really important. Of course, it has to be demand driven and of course relevant to today's world of work. So once we're able to achieve that milestone, there's also the input and the teacher training. Sometimes it's one thing to have a curriculum that is updated. It's another thing to ensure that the pedagogy at which the curriculum would be delivered, it's in line with what the industry requires. The next step, of course, when we're training the youth, as O'Neill and every other panelist has said, Mayoko and Hilda, yes, there's the technical skill set that you're trying to address. We complement this training with soft skills. Soft skills is very, very critical because sometimes they have the technical skills, the soft skills, projecting these soft skills during interview will ultimately allow them land the job. So the soft skills is very critical. And then we also have a process where we have mentorship. We organize mentorship, we organize master class sessions where it has to do with personal branding. It's interesting that some people don't even know how to, some people just need the nudge, some people just need that hand holding just to get them out there really. And so with that, LSETF, with the mentorship that we organize during training, and of course the industry input through the life cycle of the short skills development training, we've been able to achieve results. So case in point, the employability in itself, the project till date, when we started 2 years ago, we've trained over 5,000 of the youths in Lagos. And then in terms of job placement, we recognize that yes, internship is one, it's one way to go facilitate that internship. Another opportunity is some of them will go into direct employment. Some people will end up going for projects. So when we train people on construction, we understand that they would be project-based work, it's not full-time jobs. And interesting, not everybody wants to work, but being employable means you have that entrepreneurial mindset. So most of them go on the entrepreneurship track immediately after training. And so what we find is those that are on the entrepreneurship track are able to engage some of their peers after training. And so with that impact, you know, we recognize the industry engagement, which is the first milestone. Find out what are the relevant skill gaps that you want to address, inform the curriculum that we design, and then run out training programs. With the COVID, for instance, I'll give an example. With the COVID situation, now we all know technology is the way to go. Equip the youth with technology skills. We also have the Lagos Innovate, which is our talent-driven ecosystem program. There's a talent development program where a youth can access fund to complete a short skills development training for either data scientists, if it's cloud computing, if it's software development. And the truth about it is once they're done with the training, we're able to match them to employers that require some of these skill sets. And at the end of the day, once they land the job, they're able to repay their tuition or whatever loan that they have acquired to get the skill. So like I said, LSETF as an entity since inception in 2016, we've contributed to at least 100,000 jobs with our core programs, which is the access to finance, the employability program, and also the Lagos Innovate, which is supporting the tech ecosystem. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, my sound went off for a second there. Can you hear me okay? Okay, fantastic.
Yes, did everyone hear me?
Yes, I heard you up until my internet started acting up.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Shay.
Okay, I see a panelist.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's definitely clear that LSETF is one of the most forward-thinking organizations that's really pushing the envelope for employment and employability skills across Lagos State. So we'll be hearing a little bit more from you as we go along. My next question is for Timmy Daly, who is the head of HR at Sterling Bank. Timmy, thank you again for joining us today. We definitely appreciate your presence and your insights here. As you share with us some insights on how Sterling Bank recruits and adds value to existing talent, can you tell us a little bit about how you keep training ongoing with your current employees and continue to help refine their talents?
Okay, so thank you very much, Olamido. I'll start off with the recruitment bit. So for us, our talent acquisition strategy is hinged on 4-point approach, which is to attract, to engage, to hire, and to retain. And I'll speak a bit to this. So when we talk about attraction, we are very deliberate in terms of how we connect with potential candidates. And a lot of what we do in terms of our bespoke and innovative value proposition for our employees is what shapes our employer brand. Because we know that our employees will then become micro-influencers. Because the market that we pull from now is an employees market. And so as we are deliberate about the people we want to bring on board, talents are also very deliberate about the organizations they want to work for. So it's important that you get the connection right with your potential candidates. And then we go to engage. We ensure that all through the hiring process, that there's a robust engagement flow in terms of how we manage the hiring process, from even the initial chats, the initial conversations, to the assessments, to the interviews, to make sure that it's a learning process on both ends. So it more or less becomes like a developmental process where the candidates are learning and we are also learning from the candidates. And then you go to the point of hiring. At the point where you're making your offer till when they resume, there's that hand-holding. So your onboarding doesn't start on the day that they resume. It starts actually from pre-onboarding. And so you have that engagement and you're hand-holding the candidates. You're letting them have that sterling experience. And then when it comes to retain, it's important that when you bring candidates into the system, that they are able to settle in through our bespoke schemes and initiatives, your onboarding, your induction, our boarding framework, and just ensuring that they settle and fit into the sterling lifestyle. And then I'll move quickly to training, which is something that is very, very, it's top of mind for us. It's key priority when it comes to our HR priorities. And that is because for us, learning is a lifestyle. It's an element of our culture where we're an organization that is greatly driven by knowledge. And a number of propositions and schemes that we have in place speaks to this. I'll speak first to our Island Academy, which is our academy for building capabilities. And so what we've done internally, and I like what the other panelists spoke about in terms of technical skills and soft skills. And so what we've done is to create a platform where we're retooling and upskilling our employees along the lines of technical skills that are emerging and even the soft skills, which we've spoken to. A number of soft skills the panelists have taught, but there was something I wanted to speak to, which may speak more to middle management levels and leaders, is vulnerability, which is a soft skill that is becoming very, very critical at these times. As a leader, you need to be vulnerable to learn. Mayoko spoke to your learning agility, how you learn, unlearn, and relearn. And so a lot of times when people come in and they have a bit of experience, they need to be vulnerable enough to learn from the new people that are coming on board onto the team. A lot of businesses, I mean, with COVID and a number of mega trends that are happening, business models are changing. So how are you retooling, how are you reskilling your people, preparing them for the work that is emerging in terms of what are the skills that are coming up and what is needed to deal with the new business areas that you're looking to, the new emerging markets. We also have a lot of partnerships. I mean, Nexford is one of our partners where we're sponsoring our people. We have the bursary scheme just so that people are learning. We're training our people at all times. We have our partnership with LinkedIn Learning, and there's a lot of bespoke training programs that we do, interventions, both in-house and working with partners. So for us, training is a core of what we do as human capital, and in supporting the business for sustainable performance, for sustainable growth, and for transformation and change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Timmy. From my experience working with you all at Sterling Bank, I can honestly say you're probably one of the most forward-thinking organizations when it comes to employee talent and skills building. So thank you for sharing your insights with us. So we're going to move on to the next topic. And we'll spend just a few minutes here and we'll touch on as many things as we can within our time. And this is, really just focusing on career management. How do you make sure that you're achieving your goals, both short-term and long-term, and you're focused on the trajectory that you're trying to get to, particularly in this time of crisis. So I'll start with O'Neill here. What trends in career management or changes have you seen emerge recently, and how are people pivoting or adapting to these new demands?
Yeah, no, I think when thinking about career management, and I think Temi just touched on this, careers have become more complex. They're dynamic. You think about back in the day, you work at the same organization, the same function, in the same role for 30 years, right? And then the goal is to just continue growing from individual contributor to manager to senior, so on and so forth. But what we're seeing is that that's not the case anymore, right? You used to be able to look at someone and look at their age and say, okay, well, if you're this age in the company, then you're probably a senior executive or you're probably a manager. And it's due to, as I think it was Tammy that said, the change from a technology standpoint, the change from an organizational standpoint. It's really forced workers to have to reinvent themselves multiple times throughout their careers. And what that means is, and I think I saw a question pop up around someone who had been in a sales role for about 9 years and really is looking to pivot into a new role. That's common today. A lot of people are going through that. A lot of people are looking to do something very different than what they maybe have been doing in their career up to that point. And what that means is your professional network becomes critical, right? You build a professional network through school, through work, through social media platforms like a LinkedIn, like a Jobberman, and even in your personal life. And it's critical, I think, because you have people, if you go back to the soft skills that I talked about, that now that communication, that relationship building is even more important because you only have so much time, or you have one message, right, that you can send to someone on LinkedIn. And if you don't succinctly and clearly state what your objective is for connecting or for setting up an informational conversation, you may lose that connection. Right. And so I think that people are getting out and really trying to find these new experiences through relationships so that they can reinvent themselves. And I think on the organizational side, as Tammy said, right, organizations are creating more robust experiences for their workforce. Learning is a huge thing. And it's also that, for the folks that are looking to reinvent themselves, hopefully they don't have to reinvent themselves somewhere else because it's always more expensive to hire new talent than it is to keep the talent that you have. And so by providing learning opportunities, by providing professional growth opportunities, you're going to give an avenue for someone to reinvent themselves in-house as opposed to outside of the organization. So that's those are my thoughts there.
Fantastic, thanks O'Neill. So we have 2 questions. I have one for Maya Kun and for Timmy, and then we will pause for a bit to take audience questions. I see some requests for questions coming in here. So my question for Maya Kun, what tips do you have for navigating the challenges of remote work and managing your job from home? If you can give our audience who is made up of highly of learners and professionals in their career, what tips can they learn from you?
Okay, thank you. In terms of tips for working from home, it's just very interesting because IBM was somewhat flexible. So we had people that were working from home or wanted to work from home, and we allowed it. But when you choose to work from home, it's different from when you're mandated to work from home. Two different. When you're mandated, then you want to go back to the office. So my people have been calling me, when are we going back? When are we going? Like, sit down at home. So this is something I struggled with also, and it's something that I had to learn because we've been home since March. So this is like my 5th month at home. So I think the first thing is an early start. You need to get to an early start. And an early start, I don't necessarily mean wake up 5 a.m., wake up 6 a.m. Some people are not early risers. If you start work by 9, then 7:30 is fine. Or 8 is fine if you start work at 9. But what you should avoid doing is just get into reaction mode. So what happens is earlier time during work lockdown, I was sleeping late and I have my emails on my phone. So when I just wake up, maybe I wake up like I meant to start work like maybe 8:30 and I wake up like 8:15. The next day I'm going to my email and I'm just responding. What happens is it throws you off. It throws your day off, So you need to at least have that time where you're, okay, I'm going to start work. Imagine if you're commuting to the office, so have an early start. That's one. And also maybe another good thing is try and prioritize, your to-do list. Maybe what I do is, for me, in the middle of the night, I get my ideas. So I have a to-do list app on my phone and I'm just saying, look, I'm doing this tomorrow, I'm doing this tomorrow, I'm doing this tomorrow, that kind of thing. So that's good. Another thing is deciding where to work at home. The truth is there's sometimes that the kitchen is where I work because everybody at home is working from home. So everybody's on meetings, all sorts of voices and all that. So I decide where to work. Sometimes it's the kitchen, sometimes it's one room, sometimes another room. You have to decide where to work, where you can get that sanity. Sometimes you actually have to invest into your workstation. A sister of mine just went to game to go buy a school desk and a chair of 35K because she's like, you know what, I can't be sitting on these dining table chairs. It's not working for me and my workstation. So you need to, if it's going to be a long-term strategy for you in your office, invest. It's for your sanity. Some people like, oh, the office is not paying for it. Yeah, but you're investing to yourself. It's your back. So another thing, again, prioritizing your work, very important. You have to prioritize your work. The Eisenhower matrix, I don't know if you guys know it, you can Google Eisenhower matrix, where you have important, non-important on the vertical, and horizontal, urgent, not urgent. Some of us actually have to go into that level of detail to know what actually is priority. If not, you're doing everything and your boss is still not happy. Then another thing again is scheduling uninterrupted deep work. And I'm saying deep work because there is this, it's kind of almost like a new concept. There's this book by Cal Newport. It's called Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. We are home. There is Netflix. There is Instagram. There is Facebook. There are the kids. There is music. There are people. So now we need deep work because there's some type of work you do. You need to shut everything down. There are even apps that you can get on free apps. There is one called Forest, whereby those apps, what they do is that they even block some of the social media apps and those other apps from interrupting you. Forest, or there is one called Zero Willpower. Yes. So you can download those apps when you really need to do deep work, you know. Another thing again is, I think you have to know when to shut down. It's very important. Some people will call it work-life balance. I call it work-life integration. Know when to shut down. Like literally, what I had to do, because the first week I was working till like 10 p.m., 9 p.m. It wasn't sustainable. So what I started doing is 7:30, I'm out of the house, I'm going for a walk. So everybody already knows, oh, Maya, you're out. Yeah, I'm out. Do you want to call me back, or do you want to send a message? I'll look at it when I get back. You need to put that discipline there for your sanity and for even your, like, and also bring your your A game. You know, the kind of energy, if we're all in a room, I will not be expending this kind of energy as I'm speaking. But because there's already the monitor, right, blocking everything. So you have to bring your A games to meetings. You have to just try and be visible and put in that work, because already some managers are feeling and are upset, or some business owners are thinking that people are just lounging at home. So just ensure you're visible, you're doing the work, you're working from home, not sleeping or watching movies or anything. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Mayoko. I resonated so much with so much of what you've said. So I'm sure our audience could have taken so many tips from you. Thank you for sharing. And my last question for this discussion is going to Timmy. So Timmy, there's a lot of downsizing going on as businesses are trying to reduce costs and of course optimize resources as well. What suggestions do you have for anyone, on the line who is either, at risk of losing their job, who has already lost their job? What advice do you have for them during this period? If there's other things that they can be doing to keep busy and how they can bounce back?
All right, thanks, Olamido. I think I'll take it right from the point where Mayokun said, bring your A game. I think like never before, this is the time for you as an employee to bring your best self forward. Your performance levels needs to be on the increase, not on the decrease. Are you connected to the purpose of your organization? Are you aware of the changes or the thought process or the strategies that your organization is thinking through? Because as we're evolving, because of all of these disruptions, organizations are evolving. Are you part of those who are thinking through and contributing to that thought process? What is your employability index? And I say a lot of people think that your employability index is only when you're out of a job. But when you're in a job, how employable are you? How employable are you, even in that same organization? So you've worked there for a while. If I was going to get someone for that same role, would you be top of mind? Would you be the first person that I would think of? That self-assessment, that self-reflection has to happen. We need to always sit back and ask ourselves that question: what value am I putting on the table today? Whatever successes you had yesterday is yesterday's. What value have you brought to the table today? What are your performance levels? A practical example that I would always use is always perform above your pay grade. When you perform above your pay grade, your organization is going to do everything to keep you. Because guess what? They know that if they want to replace you, it's going to cost them far more. You must always strive to perform above the level at which you are employed to be. So you become somewhat, you're not easily replaceable. And you're top of mind for your line manager, your supervisor, or for anyone. And that speaks to visibility. The other thing is take this time to learn. There's so much knowledge out there. I mean, in time past, this webinar probably would have been seated somewhere in a room. We probably have had to pay a fee to have all of this. There's so much knowledge going around in the ecosystem. Are you tapping into that, to your network? Are you finding out how your skills, how your industry is changing in the field that you belong in? What are the trends? What are the things you need to be learning? And what capabilities should you be building? I believe that if you're doing this, then definitely you have nothing to worry about. Because the truth of the matter is that even as organizations are reviewing and maybe right sizing or downsizing, they're going to keep the most valued employees. They're going to keep those people who are entrepreneurial in their mindset. They're going to keep people who have the courage for this time, who are driving the change that they need, who are still productive, even at this time with all of the disruptions and everything that is happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Timmy. So with that, we'll move to the audience Q&A. There's so many questions coming in, and we're trying to address as many as possible. So some of these we may be able to type in responses. I see O'Neill has gotten a head start, and Sally is also taking some that are pertaining to Nexford University specifically. And I'll just go through myself and share some of the questions live, and have our panelists address them. So there's this one from Priscilla, and it's asking, what will be your advice to someone close to 50 years who is jobless, but with the skills and some international certification? Nigeria keeps advertising jobs and empowerment for ages 18 to 35. So essentially, for those outside of that age bracket, what can you do to really position yourself and compete for these jobs? If I could have maybe Maya Kun address this question, and then I have one that I think would be great for Timmy. So Maya Kun, could you?
Yeah, hi. So it's a bit unfortunate in terms of, I think Nigerian organizations are ageist, if you ask me. When I was, when I schooled in the UK, we didn't need to put our age on our resume. And in the US also, it's in Nigeria, they say, oh, you have to be below 26, you have to be above 26, you have to be this, you have to be that. But with that said, the world is becoming a global village. And now with COVID, our next normal, there will be jobs that you literally can do, like sitting at home, whereby, and maybe get jobs from Europe, or hopefully we can clean our image, Nigerians, but get jobs from beyond Nigeria. So I think we need to think about that. Work you can do at home, not remote work, and from other parts of the world. Another thing, again, now within Nigeria, now let me be practical, right? There are a lot of SMEs. The truth is, the US was built on SMEs. And I'm very sure Sheyi would agree with me as she's shaking her head and everything. You cannot understate the value of, small, medium scale enterprises, or MSC, micro, small, medium scale enterprises. You cannot underestimate that value. And the thing is, the multinationals will not, even back 10 years back, we had probably more multinationals they were actually employing more people. Now it's lean. Nobody wants to keep a lot of overhead or employ a lot of people. So you don't expect the multinationals' employment rate is not going to grow. It's not. If it's steady, fine. The likelihood is going to dip. So that means less workers for multinationals, because automation has come. You can put a lot of things. We don't need people. We can do things with technology. So for you, what I would say for your age and all, approach SMEs. You can be consultant. You can be a consultant to them. You do not need to work with them and 9 to 5. They may not even want to take your head count 9 to 5, but more from a consultant perspective, this is the value I can bring. If you have any project in this field, then I'd be willing to give this value. The truth is, SMEs are actually looking for professionals, but they cannot afford the professionals. So how can you then be of value to them, right? And still not burden them with that load. So if it's project based, I'm like, okay, and as SME, I'm doing this project. I'm getting this amount of money, so I can pay you maybe 1/3 of it or 1/4 of it to do the work, you know, with some other team members of mine. So let's start thinking beyond going to the banks and thinking maybe Sterling, GT will employ us. Even the multinationals, the IBMs, the ExxonMobils, the oil companies too are reducing staff, or the big fours and all. So yes, think from that perspective. For your age, for the kind of experience, the truth is there's a certain maturity that you have that a 20-something-year-old or a 30-something-year-old would not have. There's some projects I would, if I'm an SME and I own an SME, I would put you on, I will not put a 20-something-year-old. So take advantage of your maturity and the experience that you bring to the table. And, you know, SME, there are a lot of SME programs. Talk to SME owners, what you can bring to the table from a consultant perspective and what you can do for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayako. So I'll be taking the next question from Benga, and he's asking, and I would like to direct this question to Timmy as well. How does one deal with office politics? You know, if you're facing a scenario where some folks are getting favored, you know, just because of preferences and whatnot, this may be a deterrent to others. Can you address that really quickly for us?
Okay, so my first question, thanks, Benga. My first question will be, what is the culture of the organization? If you work in an organization that is merit-driven, that is objective in the way their processes and practices are being implemented, then you don't have anything to worry about. I think that the way we're going to be working now, the way work is being redefined in terms of people working remotely, and even if you have some people coming back on site, the focus is going to be on outcomes. It's going to be on outputs. It's going to be on deliverables. What is the results that you're producing? And once you are able to show what your deliverables, you're able to show forth what you're able to do, then you don't have any problems with politics. I think that would actually, there will be a reduction of office politics, because right now, what is critical for everyone is who is able to deliver, who is able to meet the deliverables that have been set, who is able to achieve the desired outcomes. Office politics for me, I would say, put it aside and don't let it distract you. Trust me, if you're good at what you do, when there's a discussion around the table, what will be said is who can do the job. So I always say to people, don't go around knocking on doors or trying to be anybody's friend. Yes, you must network, you must build relationships in the organization, but get the work done. Be the best at what you do. Once you get the work done and you are the best at what you do, when a decision is being made, I tell you, they will put the person who can do the job onto the role, not the person that is favored. But the overarching issue there is, what is the ethos of the organization? What is the value of the organization? What is the mantra of the organization? You need to check that. If the organization has their heart in the right place, they will certainly reward the right people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So Hilda, I have quite a few questions that I want to sort of summarize and pass over to you. They're all right up your alley. So we're getting a number of questions, you know, asking about placements, both, you know, job placements and even internship placements right now. So really, can you just give us an overview of what the realities are, just in terms of the job market right now and how people can position themselves? You know, we're getting questions about, you know, how can I make my CV stand out and whatnot. So how can you position yourself on the forefront to seeing that you can, you know, have a chance with some of the job openings that are out there right now?
So I'd say, first of all, I guess it depends on your qualification. I want to discuss it like in two areas. From a white collar perspective, there are some people hiring, especially for junior roles. I think right now in our platform, we have about 2,000 jobs that are live and hiring, and most of these jobs are hiring more than one person. So from sales jobs are still very, very popular. We've got people looking for hundreds and hundreds of sales agents. Marketing jobs are popular. Our tech jobs grew 183% during lockdown. Just a reflection of the fact that everybody went remote, of course. So there are opportunities, but the thing is also unemployment is high, which means as a job seeker, you have to stand out. What does this mean? Invest in yourself. I know everybody says it, so it sounds cliche, but invest in yourself. You have to differentiate. There has to be a differentiation between every person who has graduated with a bachelor's degree in marketing, right? So how do you become different? And soft skills, we have a free soft skills program currently running for everybody. I think the target, of course, core target is 1835, but anybody can sign up. That will help you. Adults of technical skills. I know IBM has lots of great certificates that you could also look into. You have to take the initiative and make sure that when your CV finally gets to somebody's desk, it looks better than everybody else's. The other thing is learn how to tell your story, right? A lot of times we have work experience we don't highlight. You worked in your mother's shop for 6 months as a bookkeeper, but for some reason you don't think that's work experience, and it is. You learned, you're doing accounting in the retail sector, and depending on how you tell that story, it could be very, very powerful. So do some thinking around, when I look at all my work experience, what have I actually done? What skills did I learn? And how do I package this into a story that sells? A lot of people might not always be the best qualified for a given job, but they tell great stories about what they've done. So if you can put some work into that, let your CV actually like a story somebody be excited to hear about. That's how they're going to invite you for the next call. If you have a CV that's just randomly written, it's a one-liners here and there, there's no focus on what you actually did and what you accomplished. No, that's super, super generic, and it's not going to be attractive to the best employers. So learn to tell your story and then put it into that CV.
Thank you so much, Hilda. And so we'll just take one more question, and I'm going to group a bunch of questions together here. And this will go to Shay. Shay, there's loads of people that are asking about Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, how they can access some of your programs, how they can find out more information. Can you just give us a quick overview on where they can go to get some of these, get some
Okay, thank you, Olamido. Okay, so I'm just going to post the website and then also follow us on social media when we have trainings ongoing. I know we recently opened up trainings in June where we called for applications from unemployed graduates. So please follow us on social media at LSETF handle, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Right? The website to find out programs that are ongoing is www.lsesp.ng, and I'm going to drop that on the comment section here for those that are interested in signing up skills. We have a partnership with USADF where we have to train 3,000 unemployed graduates over 5 years annually. So that's 15,000 essentially over the 5-year period. So we've signed the partnership, and so we will be calling on applications for those that are interested to take advantage. And the beauty about the program, like I shared earlier, is after training, we will facilitate job placement opportunities for those that go through successfully and are certified at the end of the training. So please just follow us on social media. I'll put the link for the website, like I said earlier, and then sign up. So we also have presence for those that might not be able to sign up online. I'm sure once social distancing is up, we have liaison offices across Lagos State. We have presence across the 20 LGAs and 6 LCDAs in Lagos State. All programs for LSETF are for only Lagos residents. And it's important you have your LASTRA ID. That's your Lagos State Residency Registration ID card. So once you have that, you're eligible to sign up for our programs, and they're free.
All right, thank you so much, Shay. And I think we've reached a moment of truth that we're not going to make it in time for this to complete by 1 p.m. In our time zone. So I would like to beg the permission of our panelists and even our audience members as well, if we can extend about 15 minutes. Depending on how that fits with your schedule. If you do have to rush up, we'll understand. But if it's okay, we might need to extend for a few more minutes to be able to get through our next session and questions.
I need to drop off, unfortunately. I would like to make one last comment before I leave. I saw a question around, why Nigeria, what's the perspective around developing skills in the creative sector, what Nigerian masks as entrepreneurship. And the truth is, it is entrepreneurship because it's what you make it. We have young people on Instagram and Facebook today that have hired thousands of tailors, that have become makeup artists making, hundreds of thousands of naira a week. The truth is that there's not enough white collar jobs for every young person in Nigeria. And the sooner you embrace that reality and begin to think about how you can become sustainable as an individual beyond relying on an employer, the better it's going to be for you. That's just the truth. And you can build an empire out of it.
Thank you so much, Hilda. We've definitely appreciated your time and your insights that you've shared with us. We'll be following up with you even after this session. And of course, you know, the door's always open for constant sharing back and forth between our organizations. Thank you so much for having.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Are all the rest of our panelists okay?
Yes, please.
Yep, I'm good to hang for a bit.
Yeah, same here.
Thumbs up. Good. All right. Thank you, guys. All right. So we'll move to the next session, and we'll just do, you know, quick 2-minute responses on each of these. So we only have one question here, and it's going to Timmy. So Timmy, in your industry, the banking industry, what kinds of job opportunities are opening up or likely to emerge, and what tips do you have for job seekers?
When I talk about the job opportunities that are opening up, I think everything that has to do with tech skills are things that we're looking at, because the truth of the matter is we're evolving into a product and platform organization, which means that we're becoming a tech organization that is offering financial services. And so digital skills, tech skills, product design, product development, data science, those are the kind of areas that people can look at. Digital marketing is also something that is key. And interestingly, service, customer care is something that is becoming very critical for us, because as more and more people are moving on to digital platforms and into the ecosystem, and then you need to ensure that you have the support network and support system to support people. I think for me, for tips for job seekers is that while you wait, just build yourself. Just keep learning, ensure that you make use of all the available resources that are around you. Volunteer is something that is not very common in Nigeria. You need to volunteer. In the Western countries, a lot of people on their CVs, I think Hilda said something like that. You do volunteering work and it's part of your experience, and you're proud to put that on your CV because it all adds up. Just get the learnings, just train yourself, build yourself up, internships, you know, make use of those things. Never go for an interview unprepared. Do all your research. Yes, if you have the technical skills, find out about the organization, find out about the role, do all your research so that you're fully prepared when you go for the interview. Build your network. I mean, I think now it's more critical than ever. You must build your network. The 5 most critical people around you that you spend your time conversing with will determine how far you will go. So when you look through your phone, when you look through your emails, when you look through your conversations over the course of a week, over the course of a month, who are those people that you're constantly speaking to, sharing ideas, brainstorming with? Is very, very important that you build that. You must learn to be a storyteller. You must be able to tell your story in a compelling way. Storytelling is becoming a critical skill now that all of us must adapt to. And lastly, be authentic. Just be yourself. I mean, for me, one of the things that I look for outside technical skills is how uniquely different you are. How are you able to come in and challenge the status quo? Are you able to positively disrupt? Are you going to come in and make a difference? Are you going to come in and be a self-starter? Are you going to be authentic? Are you going to challenge and make changes when you come on board? Those are the sort of things that employers are looking for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kimmy. So I think we've successfully addressed this particular discussion through the underlying points that we've raised throughout this session, this webinar, and also through the Q&A. So we would move on to the next topic, which is on the future of work. And my first question here will go to O'Neill. What industry insights would you like to share on job skills of the future? I know you've touched on this a little bit already, so if you could just give us a summary insights.
Yeah, and so to just, I did talk a little bit about it before, but one thing that I didn't talk about before was related to, the idea that robots and automation are taking jobs that have traditionally been done by humans, right? We see it in manufacturing, we're seeing it in, robotic process automation, where, more administrative roles are now organizations are trying to automate some of the less strategic work, you'd call it. But I think that sometimes it can be a little doom and gloom. And so as we think about the future of work, it's going to be less about people and working separately from robots, separately from this automation, and more about how all three of those things come together to drive value for their organizations. And so we're not there yet, and I may be way out in the future when talking about this, but I think it's really going to be where we'll see a boom is going to be in the new roles that people will need to have to integrate with robots, integrate with that automation. Those roles probably don't exist yet, but as automation and robots come into the workplace more and more, I think we'll see those jobs grow. And so, it's personal based on research we've done at Deloitte. But I think that's where the next boom will be coming. And then I also just want to add, I think the soft skills that I think every panelist has talked about, that's never going to go away, right? I think your ability to articulate what you want, articulate the value that you drive, like Temi said, you have to bring the best, be the best, operate at the next level, but you also need to communicate how you've been operating at the next level, because there are times and there are different types of organizations where you almost have to be your own advocate. And so definitely work on those communication skills, practice building relationships. And, doors aren't always going to open, right? Sometimes you've got to knock for a while before a door opens, but being persistent and getting after what you want, keep driving forward. You'll find something. So that's it.
Thank you, O'Neill. So our last question here would go to Shay. And Shay, I would like to ask what sort of education opportunities are available to prepare and upskill youth for the future. And I know IBM has, I know that there's a variety of different programs that you have.
Yep.
So if you could just touch on these quickly, and we'll move to questions from the audience.
Okay, so thank you very much, Olamide. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. So let's take this away from formal or informal, right? An individual just needs to understand that depending on where you find yourself in life, you need to understand that education is a lifelong learning process. And so what you need to do is look out for opportunities. So take, for instance, with the whole remote work happening right now with COVID, what you find out is the opportunities and likelihood that a lot of people will go after similar jobs. What sets you apart is the advanced qualification that you have. So if you have a first degree, you might want to take advantage of getting an MBA, because a lot of jobs right now require an MBA, and that's where Nexford University comes in. They have an online learning, an online program. It's also affordable. You can take advantage of that. If you decide to specialize in certain skill sets, right, you can take advantage of the Jobberman soft skills training. Like Hilda rightfully said, soft skills will enable you get jobs, and so this is free. Take advantage of all this free initiative. There's also the IBM DNA program, where it gives you free access to skills, and you earn badges that are recognized on LinkedIn, and employers would also look out for these skills. There are also opportunities. There's LSETF, like I mentioned, where we offer technical and also soft skills training that is paid for. There's the talent development program of the Lagos Innovate that youths can tap into. There's also for existing employees, right? And I think Temi also mentioned they have some skills that they run for existing employees to retain their jobs. That's the whole essence of employability, right? I know there's the Philip Consulting Skills Soft platform where you can access skills to enable you retain jobs. So there are opportunities out there. I believe people just need to be deliberate and intentional about seeking out these opportunities, right? There's IBM, there's Microsoft. They recently launched a global skills initiative in partnership with LinkedIn. And you know, this is going to equip you with skills. I know there are 10 pathways, especially if you want to focus on data science, networking, software development. There's certifications that are affordable. So I think what COVID has done for us, I won't say COVID is good, but in some way it has just helped to quickly prepare us for some of these skills that we need to acquire very quickly. And again, I know everybody had also mentioned internship. Internship is really, really good. There are paid internships online, and I think if Olamidu and Sally can just grant me permission to post a link of some online sites where you can actually get free internship opportunities. So if I have that permission, I'll paste, it's not an excuse anymore. You need to just keep looking for ways out there. There are internship opportunities 1 month. Everybody is at home. So even if you've acquired just a little skill, you can practice it via internship. You don't necessarily have to go to the office to do the work. So there are opportunities out there, and then I'm just going to share the link where you can do internships. So the education, you just need to know how to set yourself apart so that when an opportunity comes, you're able to project, whether it's the technical skills you have, whether it's the soft skills you want to project during an interview. Just show that you're ready to take on the work, that is available. Thank you.
Yeah, we have of job seekers on the line. Please do share as many resources as possible. Thank you, Shay. So we'll be moving swiftly to another session of the Q&A. We have unanswered questions. My guess is we are able to take less than 5, and I will try and group as many as possible. So we're still getting lots of questions about the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, and Shay will be sharing as many links as possible so we can go and find more information there. I'm getting a lot of questions about virtual internships, about remote work, about working for foreign companies, international companies while in Nigeria. So if anyone can jump in, any of our panelists who has any insights around this, or any opportunities that Nigerians may be able to access while living in Nigeria but working for an international company abroad.
Okay, yeah, I should take that. So the thing is, first of all, the Jobberman is your friend in terms of the application job postings, LinkedIn. Also, O'Neill said this, and there is that emphasis on it in terms of networks within those organizations, because the truth is, for some of these roles, the organizations actually tell, so this is not the whole Nigerian, is the only connection. It's not connection, network. So some organizations actually tell people in the organization that, can you refer anybody? So before you see some of those roles on LinkedIn or on Jobberman or all that, they've sent it to the organization, employees for some of the roles, employees, and they ask them, can you refer anybody? So people only refer who they know, or the skills of the people they know that are looking for those roles or have expertise in it. So yes, there's no silver bullet. You would need to, if you really want to work in, for instance, the technology firms, so like the Microsofts, the IBM, the Google, because we have those presence in Nigeria, then kind of find out, know people there, go for events, speak to people, at least know, and just tell them what you're interested in. And if something comes up, at least they can refer you, for the consulting firms also, if you want to work in we have BCG in Nigeria, Boston Consulting Group in Nigeria. So, and even of course the big fours, the KPMG, Deloitte, PwC, you have to network, Yes, LinkedIn works. In fact, I saw even a link yesterday, Deloitte in Nigeria is actually doing a lot of hiring, experienced roles though, but a lot of hiring. So you will have to check. There is no easy. There is no shortcut. It is hard work. So as you're searching, I have people that call me and say, "Hey, Maya, I just saw an IBM role." I'm like, "Oh no, that's filled already." Like, because maybe the people that posted it haven't taken it down. But you at least have to have an insider, so to speak. At least learn, network, apply on LinkedIn, apply on Jobberman, and all. Put your ears on the ground. Some of them, you actually have to go to their international sites. All these companies actually have the job posting on their website. So Global Opportunity Markets or IBM, you know, you go for Facebook, Microsoft, they have these roles on their websites also. So you can be proactively checking those, you know, instead of us checking Instagram and Facebook.
All right, thank you, Shay. And I think we have time for just one more group of questions. And I think this will be good for O'Neill. So we're getting a lot of different questions asking about CVs, asking about interviews and things like that. So for me, they all seem like the first point of contact in terms of what do you even put on your CV that gets you the attention in the first place to then be invited on the recruiting journey to interviews and all of that. So I imagine you see a lot of CVs, right? So what are the first things that you look for? What is a quick, you know, potential or quick no? Just looking at, you know, first.
Yeah, no, I think when it comes to your CV, or we say resume in America, but I think that what you look for, and what I will say is I don't have one resume that I would send out to different jobs, to different companies and different roles. I customize my resume for the job that I want, because organizations may be looking for, they look for different things. Right. And so if there's a role that you're going for, you need to think about what's important for that organization and what's your CV is telling a story about your experience. And so what's the story that you want to tell the recruiter or the professional who's looking at your resume? And you know, like Maya Kun said, it's work, right? You can't just have a standard CV. You can't just have a standard interview style, and you can't just reach out and kind of blast on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, you know, my name is so and so. I'm looking for opportunities in this field," and have just a standard intro. It's all about customizing your story to what people are looking for, and making sure that what either you're saying or what's on your CV resonates with them. For example, you know, I do a lot of work in change management. If someone is reaching out for a role regarded to change management, and on their resume, I see that they've done it, but they haven't articulated specific things that they've done around communications, around training, the value they've been able to drive during organizational change. That then tells me that, you know, they either haven't done or they don't have the experience that I'm looking for, or they don't know how to communicate the value and the things that they've done. And either way, it's not going to hit home for me. So I think, you know, when thinking about building your CV, make sure that you're customizing it for the role that you're going after. You're not just pulling it off your computer and sending it out across a bunch of different roles. I don't know if that's helpful. Ola?
Helpful. Thank you so much, O'Neill. We really appreciate that. And with that, we will start to round up. So we didn't get around to all the questions, but some of these may have been addressed earlier during the session, just with what our speakers have said. These sessions are recorded, and we will be sending out the recording to all our participants, all our attendees, so you will have that. And if I may ask, Shay and also Mayokun, please, there's Mayokun especially, there's loads of people asking about the IBM programs, you know, what you have in terms of skills building, digital skills and all of that. I know there's a DNA program, which we're also partnered with at Nexford. So if you could share any relevant links or any relevant, you know, things that you can, where people can go and find more information in the chat box. And so with that, we'll start to round up. I just want to quick announcement for all our Nexford learners and attending learners. We have a session coming up, which is the next webinar on virtual meetups, an opportunity to network with classmates from around the world. And so this is coming up on July 17th. If you'd like to register, please use this link at the bottom here. And also anyone who's looking to join Nexford now, at the moment, coming in from Nigeria, we are supporting our learners during this period where everyone is working at home, consuming more data, and encouraging you to stay online within the community. We'll be giving you free data from MTN. So with that, I would like to really thank all of our panelists one by one. Again, we owe you coffee, lunch, we owe you so much. So thank you so much. Your insights have been fantastic. And I know I'm seeing so many positive affirmations from the chat. So I know that our audience has really enjoyed their time with you. It's been extremely insightful, and we've gained a lot of knowledge. So really appreciate your time. I won't talk so much, but I would just want to say that this is really a true testament to your dedication to young learners, to career professionals, and we do not take your time for granted at all. So thank you so much. Any last parting words before we jump off?
I just have one sentence. I heard it like some days ago, so I've been looking for opportunities. So based off on all what you've learned today, I would say this could be day one or one day. You choose.
Thank you, Mayakun. Thank you all for joining us today. And with that, we will sign off.
Thank you for having us. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for having us. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye. Lovely
Bye.
meeting everyone.
Yeah,
Happy
you too.
Friday.
Bye.
Bye.